My name is Seamus Jeffreson. I'm the incoming director of CONCORD, the Confederation of European Relief and Development NGOs. One is that we have an economic model that seeks growth but doesn't deliver an equal product of that growth. And as our economies, if they get fixed, deliver growth, that growth will not be equal, and I think that's a problem. I think the other problem is one about democratic representation and about democracy. We have a democracy often in which we go to the ballot box every 4 years, but in the meantime there doesn't seem to be any way of expressing our discontent or our aspirations even to the people that govern us. And I think that that's increasingly unsatisfactory, and that democracy is failing us. It's failing to listen to what people want, and we need to fix that. That's a problem. CONCORD needs to draw on its wide membership and all the experience and commitment in that wide membership to articulate a vision of how we want things to change. And I think that increasingly there is a universality of issues in the sort of global north and the global south that we can articulate. It's not any longer a problem in the south that we want to, in solidarity, support. We are all dealing with the same issues. Issues of unemployment, youth unemployment, issues of unfair access to basic services, issues of access to decision making and to rights, particularly for women's rights. These are now universal, indivisible issues that we're facing in Europe and people are facing around the world. And I think it's our job to mobilise our own supporters and our own rich constituency of committed people to be active on those issues. We need to leave this sort of narrative that everything is fine in our society, that our society is one to aspire to, and that what we're trying to do is somehow help a poor global south. This is no longer the case. And if there's one thing that the current economic crisis has taught us, is that we have a lot in common with social movements in our own countries. Environmental movements, social movements, women's movements. And I think it does a lot for our own self-respect and our credibility with our southern partners to be seen trying to affect change in our own societies. One of the great things about this conference is that we get together and we meet people who are involved in different parts of the world in social movements. I think one thing that we need to learn about and try and find out about is how to connect with the people we claim to represent, with our constituencies. And I think that in recent movements around the world, they have a lot to teach us about that. I think that youth movements have been using technology to communicate and to create communities amongst themselves, amongst like-minded people, and I think there's a lot that we can learn from that. But I think something we have to try to learn together is how we convince our communities, our political leaders, that democracy is not only about voting every 4 years, that there is a space for civic activism, for civic involvement in between the voting process that's entirely legitimate and is part of democracy in the wider form. And I think we have to struggle together for that space.